actually going to make fun of this. Like, I feel like you're a self-humorous person. Like, I know sometimes when I was younger, people would say I look like Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle, and I
That
was
is
like,
so
yeah.
freaking funny.
I was just like, there's a part of me that's like, I like Malcolm in the Middle, and it's the smallest child, and he's supposed to be adorable, but I'm just like, it's definitely because I got big ears, isn't it? And they'd be like, anyway, it was nice talking to you. I'm like, no, you come back and you
No,
admit
it's
it.
not the big ears. It's just your general. That's insane, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see. Why'd you tell me that? That just ruined the interview.
No,
So I can't stop saying it.
I'm about to say it to you. I'm about to burst your bubble because as soon as Scott told me, hey, do you want to interview Aaron Branch? I'm like, oh yeah, let me Google him. And I'm like, isn't that kid from like the Disney movie Holes? Isn't that Zero from Holes? I want to ask you to really start off is you're out west, correct?
Yeah. I live in LA.
Okay.
I'm still getting used to that though. I'm
Yeah.
used to saying Midwest, but no, I am out west. I am.
Yeah. I'm in Canada all the way far east. And I don't know if you've ever been to Canada, but look at this. This is a loonie. See, this is my Canadian reference. This is like,
wow.
Like, you have a dollar bill. This is what we use in Canada. It's a loonie. And then
that's crazy.
And then we have a quarter, which is 25 cents, and it has a moose on it. So, I mean, if you've ever watched How I Met Your Mother, there's enough Canadian jokes in there that they make fun of Robin for, where I'm like, hey, all right. But then they did, in one episode, out of all episodes they had to choose, they were going through like the Canadian sex acts.
Yeah.
And then like, he was like, it's like, I think it was like the Newfoundland lobster trap or something of that nature. And I'm from Newfoundland. So I was like, yes, number one, they pronounced it correctly. And then Robin was like, I don't know what that is. Those Newfies are crazy. I'm like, come on. The one time we get mentioned in the show and you're like, we're crazy.
They messed it up.
I thought it was funny. I was just like, you got the name right. Great. And yeah, sometimes we can be a little bit crazy.
Now you say waifs. That's cool. I've never been to Canada. I've always wanted to. I've had some Canadian money in my life. I don't know why I've had Canadian money in my life, but I have. And it's just different. I feel like every other like piece of currency that's not the US's is just cooler. Yeah. It's more colors. There's animals. That's just awesome. Yeah. You have a moose on a coin.
I feel like you give that to someone, you're like, hey bro, this is a new NFT. And they're like,
yeah,
that's so sick. That's so sick. And then they go back to the States. So like, some Canadian gave me this NFT. I'm like, were they friendly? Yeah. Okay, well, it dripped you off because that's just a quarter.
That's just a fungible token. That's all that is.
Yeah. that gets you nothing. Aaron, I was listening to some other podcast interviews that you've done. So I kind of want to make it sound like we won't do entirely the same thing. Or that's my point, is like to try it a little bit different.
Okay,
but cool. I know there's some topics that are going to overlap, and I know you're going to be like, "Oh my god, bro! Like, I don't want to talk about this." Like, but it's totally. The one thing. So I will give a shout out. I think it was like the Man Cave.
Elias.
And I was like, as soon as he started, I'm like, it's very rare for me to go listen to other people's podcasts. I'm like, man, just do your own thing, because if you start looking at other people's stuff, you're like, he's going to come across. But I did think that one thing I really want to start off with is you were originally saying that acting was like your first passion.
Yeah, acting was my first passion.
Yeah, because I'm in a similar boat, because when Elias went through the story of like how you listen to Bob Hope CDs, at first I was like, all right, this guy's not coming on the show. Bob Hope, no.
I know. It was Bob Hope and it was Don Rickle. I forgot to mention that. And who's the guy? I get no respect.
I know who you're talking about, but it's the name it just never rings to me. But I listen to a comedy app and like I know it, and I'll know him from movies, and it's just like, it's like what Kevin Hart says. It's like, I know he's not Snapfinger famous, but you're like, who's the guy on The Thing? It's like,
it's like, no, but that's gonna bother me. But what I didn't say on there, I messed up. It was a compilation CD of all of them, and I would just listen to it and like on repeat, which is crazy. But it's funny you thought with Bob Hope, this guy's never coming on.
No. But it's like when you were going into that story, and I was just like, man, I remember being like 15, 16, and my brother got me into like SNL, and I was kind of big on Mad TV first, But then it was like SNL kind of, I was like, okay, there's not much Mad TV. I'll watch SNL. And then I think this was around the time that Conan went from the late night show to Tonight Show. And my brother, I was like, I love Conan on Tonight Show. And he's like, no, man, like you got to go watch the late night stuff. That's where it's really at. So then
that's how he got famous.
Yeah. So then I watched Conan stuff, and there was Ferguson. So like on weekends, I would watch those two combined. Like I'd go from the Tonight Show, and then wasn't much of a Fallon guy. I respect his hustle, respect that he is the guy. But Ferguson to me just came across as like, I don't give a shit. Like I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. That
was like the one that like the kids are officially definitely in bed.
Yeah.
And now we just have Ferguson here, and he's just gonna like just keep it real. You're so right about that. I don't think I've ever talked about that with any comics, which is like surprising. But like that was definitely the one where it was like I think his tie was kind of down also.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of just like we're here.
It was just so like it's almost like that thing where you're in high school where when you try to be the cool kid, it never works for you, but the cool kid is just naturally the cool kid.
Yeah.
So and that's what Ferguson was. It was like every other show would come out and be like, okay, I got to do a monologue. I got to interview people. This is how the show goes. And it's like, yes, Conan is different from Kimmel. Kimmel's different from Fallon, but like Ferguson was just like, dude, I have like this is my show. I have the gig already, and people are gonna watch me. So what are you gonna do? Like if you like me, you like me. Like he literally would rip up his material, and I know it's a bit. I'm sure he had it all like planned out in his head. But I love where he just kind of put him at ease, where it's like this is what they want me to ask, but hey, how's your kids? Vibe. How's your family? And I got
general vibe.
Got this gay robot over here as well. I'm just like I'm like progressive.
It's like my grandmother was the one that got me into late night shows because she like even to this day, I think my grandmother's like 84, 85, and she still watches all the late night shows. But whenever I would stay with her, which was pretty often, I would just sit there and just watch all of them back to back to back. Kimmel is her favorite, but we used to watch Ferguson. We used to watch Conan. We used to watch Jay Leno when that was a thing. And like, yeah, that was like my childhood, man.
Conan was my guy. Like, it was like, I don't care. Like, I know you have like, say, legit fan base. Like if you go to see an artist and you're like, song might not be that great, but like I grew up listening to enough of these songs that I'm okay with it. And it's tough when you're first starting out to kind of build an audience because they're going on your reputation.
Exactly.
So like with Conan, he could have like, when he went to TBS, he could have like a not so great guest on, but I'm just like, Conan's going to make that look great. So I'm going to watch Conan then I'd turn over Ferguson because I'm like, Ferguson has this establishment of like, I don't care. He could have the biggest name in the industry on. And I'm like, okay, but he's not gonna treat them like the big name. He's gonna treat them like, hey, you're my pal. And I'm like, okay,
you're in my basement right now.
Yeah, you're like we're in a basement. Like why did you come to this dump dive? And then they're like, do I laugh at that, Ferguson? Like, and then it's just like, go ahead, laugh. I don't care. Where
I'll tell you another killer that I like really enjoyed, and I think they only did like one season, but it was on that block with Conan when he made that move to TBS. It was Lopez Tonight, man.
Okay.
Lopez Tonight was it was short-lived, but at that time I was like, this is like incredible. And I know there's probably a lot of people on the internet that are gonna hate that I said that. But it filled me with so much joy, especially growing up with his ABC sitcom and then that kind of leading into this late night show. I thought that was the best thing in the world. I think he is so funny.
Yeah.
I think he is hysterical.
It's just like when they had the whole late night wars, like the first one when it was like Leno, Letterman, for like that. I wasn't really around for that. Now I have the books because I generally got interested afterwards.
It's a really and what's crazy about you saying, I was thinking about that yesterday. Yeah. Because I don't have cable like most people. So I just watch like the YouTube clips. Yeah. And last night I was like just catching up on some Kimmel like throughout the week because there's a lot happening in the world. And it is just interesting. I was like, there was a time where two of the biggest late night hosts in history like had an ongoing feud. Yeah. And it still is like, I feel like every now and then like one of them brings it up. It's like still kind of like in the air. Like, oh yeah, I won at the end. And you're like, that's insane to me that this is like a real two old men.
Yeah. My favorite part about it was because when I got a little bit older into like the same age where you kind of got into comedy, same age that I kind of got into comedy, it was like around the 2010 Olympics. So it was like, that's when the second kind of war for late night started with Conan leaving NBC. Like they're having the whole, but I watched if I didn't watch it, I videotaped it or DVR'd it to see what the other comedians said. And to this day, I think Lopez, even like, depending on where you want to rank him, it is what it is. But like, he had one of the best lines on like TBS for like an opening. And this is again, like, you're looking at Conan, Letterman, all of them. And I'm saying Lopez had the best line because he was like, all right, he's like, I'm the, like, I guess it's like Mexican. He's like, I'm the Mexican whose job is safe. And I was just still like, it's like, damn, that's a little bit deep. And I'm a white guy. Do I laugh? But I'm just like, he's kind of correct.
No, that man is. I think George Lopez is hysterical, man. He's one of my favorite comedians.
It was
He's
so
great.
good. Like most times, I'm like looking at a monologue, and I'm like, okay, Lopez. It's like you're not there. Like I get that you got a comedy career and all this, but I'm just like the monologues never did it. But then like as soon as he said that one night where he's like, whoo, he's like, welcome to Lopez tonight. He's like the show where I'm the Mexican guy's job is safe, and I was just like, the crowd laughs. I'm like, okay, and then I'm at home like, like I'm white. I'm white. Do I laugh?
What do I do? You just kind of be just be an ally and you clap. That's what you do. Just be an ally.
Cancel culture. So I'm pretty sure I could like laugh, but I'm sure if someone in the room would be like, "What makes that so funny for you?" I'd be like, "Well, he said it. What am I supposed to do? Not laugh? That's insulting."
Ask for the specificity of it. That's funny.
I want to ask you, like, where did you kind of start your stand-up? Because I know Scott had mentioned prior that you do stand-up now. I did stand-up one time, and like this is my story. Stand-up did not go well. Not in the sense that I bombed, but it was like I went to the wrong place. It was, you're supposed to go to like a comedy club. I went to, because in my mind I was like, I don't want high expectations. I want just like low standards. And I went to a pancake factory. So like they just served pancakes and then they have comedy on the side. So
you did it wrong, bro.
Yeah. Number one, the people that were doing like the comedy with me didn't tell me how they were going to introduce me. So one guy was like, he is the son of the Crayola creator. And I was like, oh, that guy must be really funny. Like, cause his dad invented Crayola. And then they're like, you're next. And I'm like, after the Crayola guy, right? And they're like, no, that's you. I'm just like, well, that's just going to be so confusing to an audience that doesn't understand who I am. And then they're like, now you go on a bus ride home. It's like, hey, is your dad actually? No, he doesn't know Crayola. Leave me alone. I bombed and I don't like it.
I don't get it. Why do they think that you were the Crayola? What was the joke there?
I guess they thought it would be funny to be like, oh, let's give him a really stupid intro. And I was just like, or just call me a Newfoundlander. And then people in Canada would be like, Newfoundlanders are actually pretty funny. So he has to be funny. I'm like, that would have set me up for success. Where you call me the Crayola guy's son, just as like, oh God. It's like,
that doesn't make any sense. That's not even funny. No. Like that's just like legitimately just causes confusion. It's that that's not.
I was confused.
That's really unfortunate. I doubt they're still doing comedy.
They're probably like they probably like heard me in the back practice my routine. Was like, fuck, he's good. It's like we can't have that. It's like, how do we derail his career? It's like, just say that his dad owns Crayola. It's like, awesome, do it, Jeffrey.
That's weird. You can only make so many Crayola jokes until you become an art teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very strange.
Yeah. But tell me a little bit about yours. Like, how did you start? And obviously be more successful. And I'm bitter. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, what is success? I started in Kansas City, Missouri. And I don't know if you're familiar with the states, but it's like smack dab in the middle of the country. Fun fact, I don't know if they still do. They used to keep the nukes in Kansas City because it's the hardest to hit. If we were ever to have like nuclear war, it's hard to hit the center of the country.
Okay.
Whole different thing that I learned when I was like the 7th grade. I also don't even know if that's true. I feel like I still say that fact and I'm like, I feel like you were lying to us when you told us that.
Yeah.
That's not.
I just want to make you feel safe.
Yeah. I'm like, you guys will, no matter what happens, we'll be fine. Just stay here forever.
Yeah.
But no, I started in Kansas City. I started when I was 15. And I started going after school to a local comedy club that was called Stanford and Sons and started doing their open mic night on a regular basis. Whenever I say that, I just get really excited because I get like visions in my head of like all of those times. And it was so much fun, man. Working with meeting a lot of really cool local comedians that I still talk to this day. And over time, the owners of the comedy club took like a liking to me, and I was like opening up for a lot of different people like super fast, like John Reap and Dave Coulier and TJ Miller and tons of other people, Michael Winslow.
Okay.
And that was really cool. And then when I turned 18, I moved to Chicago and then finished up my time there, and then got a degree in comedy writing and performance from Columbia College Chicago, and then just kept doing stand-up, started getting into sketch and then TV show writing and everything else and above, characters, improv, and then moved to LA, sunny Los Angeles, and I've been here ever since.
So when you tell your parents that you want to go after comedy, or you're going to like a university or college, whatever, for comedy writing, are they more or less like absolutely, or are they kind of like, Aaron, no, like,
well,
higher standards?
Well, my dad is not. My dad always lived in elsewhere, so he was in the military. So sometimes he'd be in like Italy, like other times he would be like in like Atlanta, and he's kind of in that general area now to this day. So we kind of had we would be on the phone a lot, and I just don't think he ever really fully could comprehend what it was that I was doing from afar.
Yeah.
So like I would like be like, yeah. So I'm about to go audition for this play. He's like, why are you auditioning for a play? You're 10.
Yeah.
And I think there was always kind of like this like hint of like not really fully like getting it, you know? Even up until like a couple of like years ago, which is even funnier, when he told me I should leave entertainment. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? Why would I do that? My mom has always been like super supportive, like throughout the entire way. And I love her for that. Like she never, even from when I was a kid, like I would walk around in like Dragon Ball Z costumes when I was like 3 and 4 with like the tail and everything, and have like Dragon Balls in my hands. And she'd let me dress however I want. Yeah. She let me act however I want. She let me say whatever I want. And it kind of gave me a really good feeling of self at a young age. So when it came to time to like make my own decision, it was so much easier when I did have that support. Because most parents, like I did, my first professional play was when I was in the 7th grade. Okay. And I missed an entire semester of school, and it had to be approved by like the school board and like a whole situation. And most parents would be like, why are you doing that? No, my mom was like, go do it. It'll be fun. Yeah. And I was like, yes, let's do that. Yeah. And so I just kind of had free reign to kind of like discover my own path, which I really love her for.
I feel like you call your dad and you're like, Dad, I'm in unstable. He's like, what? You're unstable? Yeah, I could totally do that. and then you're just like, no, Dad, I'm in unstable. It's like, yeah, but what is that? Is that like an institution for people that are not well, or what? What are you trying to say? It's like, no, Dad, it's a TV show on Netflix. What is Netflix? And it's like, exactly. Dad, love you, bye.
No, it's exactly. It's a lot of like trying like to describe people. Even like, like there's like I have some. You can tell somebody about something so much, but in the back of their mind, it's still like, yeah, whatever. It's not what you're saying it is. Yeah. So I feel like when it finally was on Netflix, and it's finally like, and not even just speaking about him, like just people in general. Oh, absolutely. And then when you like watch it, it's a little bit different, because then you're like, oh, that's what you were talking about. Because we're all kind of in our own little universes and our own little worlds, and we're not giving something full attention. And I'm a pretty like normal dude, And so I have a lot of friends that are both in entertainment and outside of entertainment. And because I'm 27, I've lived my entire life one way. Yeah. And I've always, been a part of entertainment, but I'm not famous by any means. So it's just funny how people perceive you in one way, and they're like, hey guys, I did this thing. I remember telling people, and they're like, oh, so you're like in what, like 2 episodes? I'm like, no, I'm in the entire thing. They're like, oh, yeah. So you're like a janitor or something, like, and I'm like, no, guys, like I'm doing this thing, and there's Rob Lowe. It's just like, yeah, whatever. But then when you're actually able to see it, it just you're able to finally be able to see like, oh, this is actually really cool. Like that's really awesome. And it doesn't matter what people think, but
Oh no, but it's just I know what you're saying, because it's like the idea of when I tell people I do a podcast, and like everyone does a podcast. I'm like, okay, and then they'll say like, name some people you've had on, and then like you tell them like John Stamos, Bob Saget, like Colin Mockery, like because you Canadian audience, and then you're trying to list some Canadians here as well, and then they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Where can I find it? And I'm like, YouTube, and then there's a generation out there like, why do I search on YouTube? I'm like, Mom, like, I don't know what to tell your friends. They want to look for it, whatever. And then it's like, you can be on TV down here in Newfoundland, and they're still kind of like, yeah, I guess I see you. And I'm like, it's just, it doesn't sink in until they finally see it for themselves. Like, I know people that will say like, I got drafted to the NHL, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then it's like, no, I just didn't play because this happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then they're like, check my IDM page or something. And I'd be like, okay, check my hockey stats. And I'll look, and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's clearly there. All right, you're not lying.
Like, no, exactly. I mean, like, it's just hard. I feel like that's a weird thing. It's like, especially in the age that we live in, like we have such a intimate relationship with screen, So I have like, I have friends that we used to just hang out at our local park when we were just 16, And so if they're like, if I'm like, yo, dude, I'm on Netflix now, it's like, no, you're not. How could you be on Netflix? We used to hang out in a park together. It's like, no, but like,
it has to go through the fly. Like, I get it. Like, it's not supposed to be, I guess, mean, but in a way, it's kind of like you got on Netflix. It's just like,
and I know it's not.
But we were just running our bikes like 10 years ago. It's like, and in those 10 years, Greg, I progressed. I didn't sit here on the bike waiting for you 10 years later and be like, Greg, can you believe we haven't moved? It's like, dog, that's crazy. It's like, no, we both went our own ways. I did this, you did that. We come back because we're still friends. How dare you say, how could you? Well, actually, it's pretty probable. I went to school for this. I was in this and this, and it's like, it's still crazy to me, man. It's like, all right, that's fine, but here's proof.
It's just hard. I think people just to grab like their minds around.
Yeah. Like, but weird. I think it'd be more easy for someone to understand that than if you were just to like, yeah, man, I went to school for comedy. I was in these couple TV shows, and now I sell hot dogs. That's when you get the response, you sell hot dogs? That makes more sense. It's like, actually, my career path, that's logical for me to be in TV shows. Like,
exactly.
It'd be less logical for me to sell a hot dog.
It would be very strange. It wouldn't make sense that I did something wrong. Clearly, there was a misstep.
The trajectory went up. It's like, hold on a second, you were on the right career path, and then all of a sudden, what happened? It'd be like, well, let me tell you a story about. And I'd be like, no. I was actually going to make fun of this. Like, I feel like you're a self-humorous person. Like, I know sometimes when I was younger, people would say I look like Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle, and I was like,
so freaking funny.
I was just like, there's a part of me that's like, I like Malcolm in the Middle, and it's the smallest child, and he's supposed to be adorable. But I'm just like, it's definitely because I got big ears, isn't it? And they'd be like, anyway, it was nice talking to you. I'm like, no, you come back.
No, it's not the big ears. It's just your general. That's insane, dude. Yeah. I see. Why'd you tell me that? That just ruined the interview.
No, I'm about to say it to you. I'm about to burst your bubble, because as soon as Scott told me, hey, do you want to interview Aaron Branch? I'm like, oh yeah, let me Google him. And I'm like, isn't that kid from like the Disney movie Holes? Isn't that Zero from Holes? and then I looked up Zero from Holes. I'm like, wait, hold on. That's how Zero from Holes should be. I don't know what happened.
That's so funny to me.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I'm surprised you didn't say Taj Mari or Tia and Tamara. That's what I normally get.
Like I that's fair too. But as soon as that came up, when he told me, I was like, yeah, absolutely. He explained what unstable was to an extent. But I was just like, I was looking at the picture. I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere. I'm like, is he in Holes? But I'm not going to tell that to Scott. Scott be like, no, you don't get an interview with him at all. I'd be like, that makes sense. That's fine. Yeah, that's totally.
God, you didn't vet enough. You're listening.
Yeah, he's out there now. Just like, he's going to send me a message, be like, what are you doing? I'd be like, what do you mean what I'm doing? I'm having fun. I want to ask you a little bit about Unstable. Because, I mean, that's kind of what we're here to promote as well. We want to talk, like, we have conversations, but
I'm so
tell me a little bit about, like, number one, how you landed this, because I'm not going to be like your friend on the bike and be like, you're on Unstable? That's crazy.
and also, just to say to my friend on the bike, it's not about, people that are, everyone has progressed. Everyone's gotten better. I was more so saying like it's hard for people to like process the fact that like I was with you now and then now you're on my screen. It's a weird thing. It's just a weird thing. I feel like in general, I'm like that also. And I see people I know on TV and I'm like, that's weird. But in terms of the show, I am so excited about it. I actually auditioned around this time last year for the project originally. It's weird to think how much can change in a year. It's just really exciting to me. But did the audition, originally was told no. I kept living my life. And then they called back like a month later. And I'm like, hey, like you want to come do like another session? I was like, yeah. And then like I think like 2 hours after doing that one, I found out that I got it. And I was like, oh, this is exciting. Because I mean, the role of Malcolm is everything that I think I've wanted in a role. Like, you know, having Victor as like the head writer, like his writing capabilities are like insane. Like it's just, there's so much wit. It's so tight. And it kind of reminds me of a lot of the humor that my friends and I have when we're together. So after reading the pilot initially, I was like, I want this project. And I'm just so happy that it worked out that way. The process was insane. It was amazing working with Rob. It was amazing working with Johnny. And I became immediate best friends with Emma and Rachel, who play Ruby and Luna. Working with Sean Clifford was a dream. Yeah, that entire experience was just like, it was really, really magical, man. It was a really awesome summer. It was great.
Be honest. You auditioned for Rob Lowe's son, and then they're like,
actually,
Rob Lowe's son is actually going to be in it. You're like, I'm out.
I did. And then they were like, Aaron, we want to give it to you. But they were like, but blood is thicker.
Blood is thicker than water.
Blood is thicker than water. And I was like,
and you know what? Sadly, the only reason I know that catchphrase is because I used to watch wrestling as a kid, and they used to have the Dudley Boys, and the Dudley Boys was like, what does it get the tables? And it's like, blood is thicker than a table or something. I'm like, I don't know. They don't even make sense. I was like a kid. I'm like, how does that make sense? And then it's just like, I would go to school and be like, you know what's thicker than family and blood? A table. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, Dudley Boys.
I only know that phrase because like my mom would say that a lot. Blood is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water.
I feel like she said that in a context where you're about to make a bad decision or a wrong decision, and then she's just like, you know what, blood's thicker than water, Aaron. You're like, I just want to go to McDonald's. Like, like I'm not saying anything bad about your cooking. I just really want McDonald's tonight. I want to ask. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about Malcolm, the character, because like I did a brief kind of bio, looked up. I think I've seen 1 or 2 episodes. It's hard to keep up with everything. At least I'm honest about it. Other people won't be. But tell me, like, what drew you to this character and why you were so excited to be cast? Because you said, like, the whole kind of sense of humor of the show, all that, and aligns. So, like, for someone out there that might be just on the fence of, like, oh, I don't know what to watch on Netflix tonight. I could probably watch the same thing 20 odd times. I'm like, that's where I'm to. So sell me on it.
No, I think the show is awesome because it's fun. Like it's a workplace comedy. It's an easy watch, right? It's lighthearted. It's it kind of creates this like insular environment with these like wacky characters, and it's easy to get lost into it, but for it to not affect you, you know, it really is just really enjoyable. It hits on so many different levels, but it's not like, I feel like oftentimes with a lot of TV, it can be just so heavy, you know, and with everything else that's happening in the world right now, I like love this show because it's like almost the exact opposite of that, you know. It's just like a fun watch. You can kind of like use it to like escape, you know. You can use it to watch some of your favorite comedic people on television. I mean, the cast is absolutely insane. There's so many surprises with our guest stars. But on top of all of that, the character of Malcolm just kind of encompassed a lot of the experiences that I had in like my early 20s when I first moved to LA. So it was kind of like one of those situations where like reading the character, I was like, I know exactly what to do. Like I know how to put my own spin on this character that I feel like other actors probably wouldn't be able to deliver on. And it was just like, and it doesn't happen often. It happens with a very select number of characters, and this was one of them. And I'm so happy it worked out the way that it did, because I remember just seeing it and being like, I know exactly how to execute this in a very hysterical way. And and I hope people think the same thing.
How would you because I know this is technically what people do, like when you watch a new show and someone, like if you're trying to recommend it to a friend, like someone was trying to recommend New Girl to me, I think a few days ago. And I was like, okay, but like, tell me about it. I just don't want to turn it on, because you have to give things at least, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons before you really sink into it, before like things grow and develop. So, I mean, I feel like with anything with a season 1, like if you're into it, you're into it. If not, you kind of got to struggle through it. Like, listen, I love Big Bang Theory, but I'll be honest and say season 1, I was like, this is dragging out. But then when I started bringing in more characters, they started getting development. Awesome. But, like, tell me a little bit of like how it would be, your words for it. Because if someone was advertising New Girl to me, they said, oh, well, you like Boy Meets World and you like How I Met Your Mother. It's kind of like an adult version of those two crossed in. And I'm like, okay, you got me sold. So if someone was trying to, I guess, watch Unstable and they were like, tell me 2 shows it's similar to or cross-reference, what would you think it would be?
I'd probably say like it's completely different from these 2 shows.
Yeah.
To keep that in mind. But I would probably say like Better Off Ted mixed with a little bit of like Parks and Recreations.
Okay.
And I think that's, again, going back to comedic sensibility, Better Off Ted, Victor Fresco, right?
Yeah.
Parks and Recreations, Rob Lowe does such a good job. Chris Traeger is an icon, right? So I do think that you can feel the sensibilities of both Victor and Rob together with this project. And so it's naturally going to have elements of that, but genuinely that is probably the 2 shows that I would say it's a nice mashup of,
Okay.
Even the first season of Parks and Recreations, one of my favorite shows, the first season is like, to your point, it drags on a little bit, but then it becomes the show that it ends up becoming. But this show, what's so awesome about it and what's so cool is that you have so many comedic veterans, is that like it really does find its wings like after like the first like couple of episodes. Like once you're used to all of the characters, it did it so fast, and so those are the 2 shows that I would say. Those are the 2 shows I would say.
No, that's perfect. I was going to say, like, in my mind, watching again a small sample size, I was kind of like, it kind of reminds me a little bit sometimes of Community.
Right? That's cool too.
Then,
that's a really awesome compliment. I love
Community. And then like I remember, like, now I think it's renewed for season 2, but I remember growing up on like that 70s show. But I remember watching it like the first time around. I'm like, the first season or so, like if you're really into it, you're into it. But like over time, it was probably off TV when I got into it, and I was just like, you know what, this isn't that bad. Like, it's not my all-time favorite, but I can sit down and watch it. And then when they came up with like that 90s show, there were people like, as soon as that started, people were ready to cancel it or they didn't like it. I'm just like, you kind of got to give it. We're in a generation now where people don't want to wait. I'm just like, okay, give it a season. They gave it a season. They're renewed for season 2. And then people are like, well, like Kitty and Red carry that cast. I'm like, I understand it. If you're old like myself, I'm like 31, and you're kind of like, man, I wanted to see more Eric. I wanted to see more Jackie, whatever. But I'm like, there is a generation out there that has never seen that 70s show. This is their idea of what like the 90s show is. Because again, when we were that age, that's what the 70s was to us. We were like, 10 odd watching that 70s show going like, oh, so this is what it was like in the 70s. Of course, when you're 30 odd, you're like, yeah, I grew up in the 90s. I could care less. But there's a generation out there that's like, whoa, I'll watch this. Like, what are the CDs? What is this about? I'm like, target them. Like, they're the ones that will watch it, stream it. Don't worry about us older ones, because we're just going to complain regardless. Like, if I don't see Kitty on the screen, I'm like, all right. But at the same point, my nephew or something who will watch it be like, I relate to that character. And I'm just like, okay, there you go. That's keep this person in mind. Don't worry about me.
And they did a really good job with that. I really enjoyed that 90s show. I thought it was funny. They did a good job of like sticking to the old premise by kind of like bringing it into its like own
And
voice.
that's
It's
that's
cool.
tough with shows. Like
It's really hard with
listen, like
replays.
my favorite one is Boy Meets World, and like I
Man,
think Girl Meets World could have done a lot better, but it was like you relied,
talk about a
yeah,
ugh,
you
that was
relied,
just
yeah,
not that wasn't it.
no,
That wasn't it.
you relied way too much on the nostalgia, and then there's a
Mhm.
younger generations like who's this guy running for president, and why is he so excited that this reporter is like, why is he getting so mushy about a reporter? I'm like, because you don't know. I was like, that was
Yeah,
the kid that he adopted or like gave up because, and then they're like, I don't follow. I'm like, and that's the problem. You don't follow. So now you don't want to engage to keep continuing to watch it. An older generation watches it, but we're almost like, okay, like
yeah,
we're done. It's not going.
exactly.
That's what we that's the real unstable. That's when
Yeah.
we all become unstable.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think that yeah, I think you're right. It's a weird world, man.
Yeah.
It's a weird world for entertainment right now, just in general.
Do
Also,
you
but at the same time, I love it.
do you find being on Netflix? Because I know people will say like you got Netflix, you got Crave. There's all these different platforms now that people can subscribe to. Do you find like with Netflix it kind of gives you a little bit more of a maybe leeway or like a niche? Because I know up here with Crave, I think you can get it in the States, maybe not, but like Crave TV, we have a show called Letterkenny. But when we
Mm,
interviewed them, um, when the guy said we wanted to go on Crave because if we went on CBC or like an I think he mentioned another station up there. They don't have the leeway. They couldn't curse. They couldn't like put in certain innuendos because they're just restricted. But with Crave, it was free range. So do you find
yeah.
Netflix a little bit more like they'll not necessarily they'll let you do everything you want to do, but they'll let you be a little bit more flexible, creative compared to say a cable?
Yeah, no, I think that's one of the cool things about Netflix in general. Like they really go out of their way to try to give an authentic voice to, you know, diverse voices from every point of view from across the world and try to tell that story and present it in a way that's game changing. And they do it time and time and time again. Um, and what's cool, and that goes along to your point, is that each one of those stories um, look different. Each one of those stories sound different. Each one of those stories, the content is different, you know? And I think that that is just a testament to how much Netflix is committed to really propping up the future storytellers of our world and giving them the best platform as possible. They do a really good job of that.
Yeah, I know. I know. Like for me, I have Netflix, I have Disney Plus, I have all these apps, and like sometimes you'll see shows that come across like new to Disney Plus or new to like
Yeah.
Netflix. And I'm like, all right, that's great. But I'm just like, at what point does someone just buy out all these platforms and be like, all right, here's a big, almost like the same as a cable package. It's like you get Disney Plus, Netflix, all this, but you pay this much a month. I'm like, great, thank you, because there's too
Yeah.
many shows that you're just. And I listen, I get it. It's like a double-edged sword because it's great for like actors, comedians, whatever, like because it keeps on giving them work, it keeps on giving them new projects to work on. But for like the consumer, for someone like myself, I'm just like, I want to support you, but I can't spend 18 hours of my day watching this person in this show, this person on this app, this over
Mhm.
here, and then it's just like at one point you're just kind of like, all right, I'll try it, I'll stick with it, I'll set aside as time. It's almost like you're becoming like a parent to an actor. You're like, listen, I will set aside time to watch your show, and then if I like it, I'll stick around. But it's like, all right, it's like, but if I don't, it's nothing against you. It's just
Yeah.
Brian has other things, okay, and then it's just like, okay,
Man, and it's also crazy seeing all these streaming services kind of like drop like flies, you
yeah,
know, for all of the same things that you're listing right now. But one thing I'm certain of is that I think Netflix is going to be the one to stay, man.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's
I feel like
you
it's
can't
just
even
it
compare.
just becomes more or less of a what's the old turn of phrase I'm looking for? It's like if you're first to do something and then people just become like
They're the
used to it, or
OG.
yeah, like if you just become used to it, or like not necessarily if you're established, it helps, but I think it's just more or less the thing of like a routine. So
Yeah.
if you get in a routine of like, hey, Netflix was the first one that ever kind of came out with this stuff, then it's like, yeah, that's
it's that also, but it's the tech too.
Yeah,
I mean, I literally went at a family reunion recently, and I'm incredibly cheap, so I did not get Wi-Fi on the plane.
Yeah.
And I was able to pre-download episodes on my phone, and I was able to watch them. Not only that, because I downloaded those episodes, it also knew that I watched those episodes. And when I was back on my laptop again, it started off from the episodes after the ones that I downloaded. Nice. It's just like they have thought about every angle of the viewer's experience and have made it so easy and seamless. I do not think any other platform is doing that. I just don't think so. Like the amount of time and the amount of energy that they've put into it. I mean, with like captions, with voiceovers. Like I literally can experience me, an American that speaks only one language, and I would love to learn more, right? I can experience an entire different story told by a storyteller and filmmaker from a completely different part of the world, and be able to talk about that or have a shared experience with the viewer in a completely different country because we both like the product. Like that's just pretty cool, man. And obviously that in itself is not new, but Netflix makes it incredibly easy to be able to have that exchange.
To kind of close it off, Aaron, I like to have a bit of a fun aspect too. Last night this hasn't been fun, but a fun aspect of like random questions. Are you up for random
I'm
questions?
ready. Let's go.
What is the worst date you've ever been on?
Oh, the worst date. I went out with this girl and she talked about wolves the entire time.
Okay.
And I was confused.
You weren't aware of it?
Wait, what?
Werewolf? You weren't aware of it?
I wasn't aware. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for that. No, it was fun. She was very, very sweet, very nice. Very into wolves. She's very into wolves.
Yeah. To the point where you're like, hey, like, what's your favorite movie? And she just lists off a bunch of wolf ones. You're like, okay.
Teen
like,
Wolf 1. Wolf 2.
Like, what's your favorite TV? It's like, what book have you read lately? It's like another wolf one. You're just like, okay.
Twilight.
So I'm guessing you're a big wolf fan. It's just like yeah, woo. You're just like, okay, wait, woo or wolf? It's like, I said wolf. I'll be like, I'll just pass that off as woo. What was your favorite TV show growing up?
My favorite TV show growing up was the Rugrats, hands down. But that's really hard. So thing about me, I like love TV. So TV like acting. If acting was my first passion, TV was like my first like obsession. And I to this day am just like obsessed. I've always wanted to be on TV. Even like growing up when it was like movies were the thing that like, you know, everyone was doing before TV was like considered like really cool. I was like, I want to be on a TV show. So the fact that I'm on one is pretty cool. So that's a really hard question. I have so many TV shows that I really liked at different ages. But when I was little, I was a Rugrats kid for sure.
Okay. No, I agree with you. Like there's a lot of animated shows when I was smaller I liked that would be like, I don't know if they're Canadian exclusive, but like there was definitely like Little Bear or Franklin from
like those kind of shows. Yeah.
And then
Frasier also. Frasier was probably when I was around that age. I really, really enjoyed Frasier and the Drew Carey show.
Drew Carey? Okay. Ohio. See, you like the Drew Carey show, and that's fine. Like I've given it a fair shot, but my thing with Drew Carey is I loved Whose Line. Whose Line for me?
Whose Line? I mean, but you can't compare those two things. I mean, one's a sitcom and one's freaking improv, which is genius. Whose Line, anyway, is a whole different.
That show is incredible. I will go down like a rabbit hole on like YouTube of like just, and it could be tonight where I'll just go and look like scenes from a hat, and then be like someone has uploaded scenes from a hat 1 to like 48, and then someone's like, "You're not gonna watch all 48." I'm like, "You watch me." Like they're like, we're not sitting here and watching you. That's scary. I'd be like, no. I'd be like, I'll vary it up. I'll do some party quirks. I'll do some questions only. But it is like, you're right. That's talent because you're putting it on TV. I know it's like recorded and like you'll watch an episode and you're like, how come he's wearing the same yellow shirt? It's like, no, because they took probably like 2 hours and condensed it into 20 minutes of show or whatever. But there are good like one-liners there. Like as a kid, I didn't know what Rogaine is. I'm happy I didn't. But when like Colin Mockery comes out and he's just like, I'm Colin Mockery from Rogaine, I'm like, and then people are laughing. I'm like, I don't think that hit for me, Colin. I don't think that's funny. And then when I get older, when I get older, I'm just like, damn.
That's hilarious.
That's a good one. It's also a bad sponsorship, but that's the whole idea. The last one I have here, Aaron. Let's see. I'm just trying to find a good one here. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. If you were to be on an NBA team, what team would you want to be on? And the side question on this one is, who would you want as your teammates? I won't give you too hard. Like you can pick like 2 or 3 superstars.
I'm not a big basketball guy. That's the hard thing. So my answers are going to be incredibly basic. I probably would. Heck if I know, man. Miami's fun.
Okay.
So probably would say like the Heat, but just simply because of Miami.
All right.
And who I would want on my team, I don't know that many basketball players because I'm not a big sports guy. So let's say we're putting freaking Bugs Bunny. We're putting freaking Donald Duck. We're going Toon Stars all the way. I want Lola Bunny. No.
Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes, but Toon Stars. Toon Stars. The Toon Stars were the Toon Squad. Yeah. Toon Squad.
I'd say see for me that's it like I like the Celtics. I grew up liking the Celtics, so I want to go up. I want to go with Boston. But like if I had to pick like one person that I'm like, okay, this is who I want to play with, it'd probably be Curry. So and Curry's not leaving. Curry's not leaving Golden State. So like, all right, do you really want? I'm like, oh man, Boston fans would hate me if I just said I want to. But I'm like, oh fuck it, okay. Like I'll stay with Boston and just deal with Paul Pierce in my ear, going like, you're not that great. I'm just like, thanks, Paul.
Paul seems cool though.
Yeah. Paul seems very honest, but I think there are some like I like Paul Pierce. I think he's like a competitor, but there are some times I'm just like, is that really the hill you want to die on, Paul? It's like, is that your take for the day? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. LeBron wasn't like, it's like this guy was hard to guard LeBron James. I'm like, I'm not even a LeBron James fan. But I'm just like, really? Because if that guy was so hard to guard, wasn't he still in the NBA? And it's just like Paul Pierce is like, I'm out. I don't have to answer this to you. I'm like, you're absolutely right, but still, like, come on, case in point. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, I enjoyed having the conversation with you. I hope you did too.
Dude, this was great, man. I appreciate you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. You said you were going to make it different. It was different, man. That was great. Thank you so much.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Aaron Branch for coming on to the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying thank you for listening and good night.